during COVID, my business shut down and I had no income and didn't know what I was going to do, right? And realizing money didn't create happiness. What created my happiness was trying to figure out what I could do to help others, right? So I started a consulting company and helped small businesses and started an event company to help connect people.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein, and I believe each and every one of us deserves a plan in life, whether that's a health plan, a college plan, a retirement plan, an exit plan, any kind of planning. We all should take proactivity, and Ask the Planman is all about being proactive in our lives. And I'm thrilled to have Jim Morris join us today. Jim is a husband, he's a father, he's a realtor, he's a public speaker. Give him credit for that alone. He's the owner of a unique event company that focuses on bringing his community together in the Nashville and surrounding areas. He's a fairly new father. He's been provided some new perspective, as most of us new fathers have, for growth and a lens of clarity. He's the ultimate planner, which is why I want him on The Planman. And he believes that each of us has to plan for the future while living in the now. So let's get a tag that. I want to get into that one. Whether it's regards to health, marriage, parenting, social life, or wealth building. Sounds familiar? He should have a show, Ask the Planman. He's always working on his plan and guiding others with their plan to secure to a secure future by making good decisions today. He's passionate about applying tactics for growth in his own life and knows that fulfillment, thus success, is achieved by having, now listen to this, a strong mindset, achievable goals, accountability, clarity of direction, meaningful relationships. I mean, this guy, he's like 27 years old, folks, but man, he's got his act together. I don't know, how old are you?
33.
All right, it's close enough. Close enough.
Well, he is 33 this year.
I like that. That's one of my numbers when I played baseball. His peers often describe him as the person who zigs when everyone zags. That's bullet 2 I want to talk about, mainly because of his continuously optimistic outlook and ability to use data and analytics to make informed decisions. Whew. All right, let's get started. I want to go with your big tagline in there is a plan for the future while we live in the now. You're 33. I'm almost twice your age. Tell me more, Jim Morris. Tell me more.
One of the things that I realized in life is always planning and looking to build the future. You forget to live in the now. You forget to live in the moment. So one of my taglines that coincides with this is plan for decades, but live in the moments today, right? So you want to look ahead and you want to be futuristic, but you've got to live in the present and enjoy what you're doing today, what you've built yesterday, and looking at that on how you can progress into that future. So that's how I look at things.
But how at 33 did you get that kind of wisdom? Because I can tell you there are people in their 40s, 50s, and soon to be 60s, yours truly, that don't have that outlook. So where did that come from at such a, and it's kudos to you, obviously, is how did you come and formulate that at such a young age?
Well, I think mostly I believe that you've got to go through an experience and something has to happen, right? Whether that's positive or negative. And you really learn from that. And then you whittle it down and you try to understand where it derived from. How did you get there? What you may have changed if you did it again, what you may have not changed, right? So for me specifically, I went through a period where, I had a business that was prospecting to be amazing. I was always thinking ahead for the next thing. And then my plan kind of went sideways, right? And, one of the things that upset me the most was like, man, I really planned for this and I had all these outlets. And it's what allowed me to go through it and get to the other side because I did have plans, not just that only plan. But what I realized through that process is, I was always looking ahead and never really enjoying what was occurring or happening or celebrating small wins and things of that nature. So for me specifically, that's not fun. You've got to enjoy the journey. And yes, we need to have plans in place because things don't come out or the outcome isn't what we want. But we've also got to enjoy what we're building today, what we built yesterday, and the life we live. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be miserable, for the rest of my life, always wanting something that may be a little bit out of reach, right? So I really had to work on myself through that process and live in those moments and enjoy that. Now, not putting the planning aside and looking into the future aside, but just living in those moments and understanding what's happened, what my accomplishments are. And I think going through that business situation where it allowed me to actually sit back and enjoy what I built for a second, and then also progressing to the future of having a plan that went completely sideways. That kind of a combination of those both things really landed me where I am today with this outlook of, keep building, keep planning, because all these things could occur at any point in time. We don't know, but also, pat yourself on the back a little bit and live and maybe enjoy a nice dinner or a vacation here and there,
Well, so a couple of things here, and I think for the record, that's the longest I've let a guest ever talk without interrupting. And I know my listeners are going to laugh at that one because it's pretty true. So two things I got in there I want to break down with you a little bit. So one, first and foremost, the old line, man plans and God laughs, right? So you had these plans and they went sideways. And so as you and I in our circles, say in here a lot is there's no failure, there's just lessons. And so you took that setback, you didn't let it get the best of you, you took away some lessons from that, and then you moved forward and improved, and you brushed yourself off. And again, as the Mike Tyson quote, is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. So in that regard, at a young age, you've been able to overcome some of those setbacks. But the other piece that resonates more, and again, and I say it certainly warmly in the sense of a young age. I'm not trying to just blow smoke at you here, but where a lot of the younger people, you're my kids' ages, where a lot of people don't spend time as working on themselves. And so what you've recognized in the sense, and I struggled with at your age and maybe certainly even younger, is the chase. The chase. And you have the book behind you, Coach Burt. And you and I know each other through the Coach Burt community. He's been on the Planman as well. And his book, Flip the Switch, which is about activating your prey drive. And I think what correlates so much to what you just said, Jim, is the chase and the prey drive is for a vast amount of people. And I call us, we're the rainmakers, we're the hunters, we're the solopreneurs out there. We eat what we shoot. So the chase is always to put something on the plate. And what Coach Burt really hammers to me in the book and his lectures on prey drive and flipping the switch is that this is my takeaway. The danger for me was the chase, constantly going after the next predator, the next prey as the predator, right? The next deal, the next sale, the next client, the next. But you never stopped, to your point, of appreciating, the cliche, smell the roses. And so I buried myself very close in age to you in my, frankly, my late 20s, where I crashed and burned for the first time in that world of the chase, because it was just this insatiable drive that I could just never make myself happy. And I, the story, I'm getting a little deep. Sorry.
Cool. Let's get deep. Wait, I want to hear the story.
At 20, so I was a stockbroker at 23 years of age. A lot of people know my story. Started in 1986 at Merrill Lynch, and all the guys a year or two ahead of me, everybody was driving the new BMWs, right? Everybody you had to be that yuppie, young urban professional. Everybody's driving these BMWs, and well, I want a BMW. Like, I'm driving an old Cutlass. Like, I want a BMW too. I want to be with the cool kids, right? So here I am. And I'm working my ass off, and I'm cold calling like crazy, and I'm getting to a point where I can step up and so-called afford this 3 Series BMW, right? Again, I'm 24, I'm 25, and again, we laugh now in perspective, but my first job out of college was $19,000 a year, Now you make that in a week sometimes, right? So, that was a lot of money. And so getting a job at 24 and making myself eventually earning 45, that was a pretty, like almost more than doubling your income at such a young age. So I could afford that car. Well, sure enough, no sooner do I have the white BMW with the red leather seats and the sunroof and the 5-speed, and I'm with all the cool kids, and we all got our little BMWs. And the only thing going through my mind after I got the car, why didn't I get the 5 Series?
Yep. You want the 7 Series now. You want and two-tone leather. You want the upgraded MP3. You want the...
there's no MP3s back then, bro. We had cassette players. We didn't even have the CDs yet. Man, we were still on cassette.
We are talking age now, because I tried to go back as far as I remember to MP3s, brother.
Yeah, I can't even spell MP3s. So, but to the point of what we're saying here is the danger and the drive, and what led to ultimately my personal capitulation. I left the business. We went through a bankruptcy back then. We were expecting our first child. Again, I haven't really shared this on the show, but I stayed home for 4 years and raised my 2 sons, and my now ex-wife, stayed and worked. And part of it was from burnout. I got burnt out. That chase was killing me. It was unhealthy for me. I was just very unhappy with the way things were going. And this is at 27. So when you tell me at 33 what you've done, yeah, I got back in the industry. I was 31 when I got back in and started to rebuild. So, your perspective resonates to me in that sense, because you've been able to pick yourself up. And I felt today's episode would be more in that regard of outlook and overcoming, and not letting defeat win, right?
Totally. I mean, for me, I think the chase, growing up without money and the chase for that dollar allowed me to put myself in that position of what's next, similar to you. What's next? Okay. The nice meals, the car, the vacations every 2 weeks, whatever. Right. But it puts yourself in this position of, you don't really reflect on who you are, what you're doing, what your purpose is, where you want to go, why you want to go there, what drives you, what motivates you. You think it's the dollar, you think it's the next big thing. But I recently, in the last year and a half, have come to that conclusion that it's none of that. My happiness is not derived by any of that. My happiness is giving back. My happiness is helping others. My happiness is educating. My happiness is getting you a dream home you never thought, helping you rebuild that credit, connecting you with someone to grow your business, connecting you with someone to help with your mindset, because you're in a negative situation. We live in a negative world, right? How do you radiate that positivity? How do you design your life to a point where you wake up and you like what you see in the mirror? For me in my 20s, when I was chasing the hustle, I didn't even ever want to look in the freaking mirror, dude. I was scared to look in the mirror, right? And I masked all those emotions. I masked all those broken relationships by, man, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm good, right? I'm the youngest director in this company. I'm taking on the biggest department that no one wants to lead and has failed over and over. And I'm the internal candidate that's going to save this because I've saved X, Y, and Z, right? And everything was business predicated. My relationships were deep with friends because, I had a lot of close friends as I grew up, but those were just people that supported me, and I didn't let into the reality of what was going on and how I was acting. So I think I had to go through that process and really learn to say, okay, I got the next car, the 7 Series, and I'm still not happy. And it didn't feel as good as I thought when I was going to get there, right? And once you change that perspective, at least for me specifically, was, how can I just enjoy these things and it not be predicated on a dollar figure, And then I got to the point where I donated money and was like, this feels better than buying the damn BMW. Right. Like, I'm hearing this story of this child that Make-A-Wish, and yeah, $1,500 of my dollars went to that person. It's changing their life. Like, that's what I want to do more of as I grow older and build relationships and collaborate and hear people's stories, right? And that's actually what I want to celebrate. But I also do need the financial side of things to help as the vehicle to support myself, my mission, my family, food, the necessities we need to live in life,
So can you identify when that switch flipped? We'll throw the book name back in there again, but can you identify when you went through that change, that you kind of correlated that and had that realization of like, this is the better path for me? Is there a particular moment where it kind of clicked?
There is. Leaving the corporate world 4 years ago and making really good money, and then understanding that I was much happier as an entrepreneur making dog shit really helped throughout that, right? Where, during COVID, my business shut down and I had no income and didn't know what I was going to do, right? And realizing that that money didn't create happiness. What was happy was, what created my happiness was trying to figure out what I could do to help others, right? So I started a consulting company and helped small businesses, and started an event company to help connect people because we were in COVID and no one's throwing events and no one's meeting people. And it was us against the big box companies like the Walmart that was open, the Lowe's that was open. And I just watched the community suffer. So I'm like, how can I do things that don't make me a dollar, but create happiness in a time of a negative world and not much positivity,
Yeah.
Doing those things did create those happiness. Like I'm walking down the street in Nashville at a restaurant and I look over and it's two people I know. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's happening? How you guys doing? Oh, you guys know each other? Where'd you meet? Jim, we met at your event 9 months ago. We're talking about writing a business plan. We've got some cool stuff we're going to collaborate on. Like, those are the moments that I need to grab onto and realize that they're so powerful. And I was skipping over that because it was money, 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 promotion, 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 next big shiny object with no reflection of who I was and what I was doing.
Good for you. That's good for you. So the other line you have in here is you're known as a person who zigs when everyone zags. So I want to get into that because I have fundamentally been a contrarian my whole life. I am the zigger when everybody zags. I am not. I'm a Leo, right? My zodiac's a Leo, so Leo the lion, right? So I view and feel that my personality comes through in that regard as I'm a leader. I'm definitely not a follower. I am not an inside-the-box thinker. I am always outside the box. I always challenge the status quo. I am not a corporate person. I've pretty much worked for myself my whole adult life. So, the contrarian point of view, I would...
I like you so much.
Right. So, yeah. So tell me more, in that sense, because the way your intro reads is, the data and the analytics and everything else. But, to me, the contrarian is more than just maybe analytics as much as gut. So how did you, again, I take a lot of pleasure in seeing a younger person be so far along in the clarity that I see in you. And we'll call it the mental health, the emotional intelligence, whatever you want to label on it. But, at 33, I congratulate you for, your evolution, right? And I certainly know my path, and I encourage others. And again, why we wanted to talk about it today is, so again, how did you, kind of identify yourself in that regard, that you put it in your bio, right? That people see you that way. Tell us, more about how you think that came to be.
So when I first started in management, 18 years old, account manager for a hospitality company, one of the things that I started to do was take all the positive things that I liked from my mentors and my bosses and all the negative things that I didn't like and really make it my own. And at that time, I was just thankful to have the job. My brother got me the job, right? So I didn't push the envelope on anything for years. I worked for that company for 11 years. 5 of those years, I just obtained information. right? Tom does this, and that was really fucked up. I don't want to ever do that. Bill does this, and man, did I feel moved and motivated. I want to do more of what Bill does, right? And I just kind of built this. I had a little black book, shit you not, like a little black book binder, and I just write down all these little things, I'm going to do this. I won't do this. I'm going to do this. Today I don't know where that black binder is as I moved multiple times, but that really helped me position myself to build a good base. So I did feel comfortable after several years questioning the status quo, right? And throughout my life, I've always kind of done that where, I own an organic frozen beverage company. And through those conversations, we were like, oh, well, we need to put preservatives in it. And I'm like, no, then I don't want to own the company. Like I'm not going to, that's not the purpose. Yeah, we're going to lose a lot of money. Yeah, we can double our profits. Yeah, we're going to throw away product because it's going to expire, but that's not the reason why I did that, right? So as I kind of navigate through to these other businesses and different situations, I really just wanted to, I would push back on what I believed in. And I for some reason, I felt the confidence to do that because I built this base of all these things I wanted to do and didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to today, I get scrutinized on Facebook because I tell people not to buy houses right now. Realtors crush me. They kill me. They want to argue. They fight me. They send bad messages through Messenger. And I'm like, dude, why would you want to buy a house right now? Now, let me give you the caveat. If you're moving into the state or you're moving out of state, you're getting married, you need an extra bedroom, you're downsizing, there's debt, right? There's those reasons why you have to make a change. And I understand that. I'm not an idiot, right? But if you're just a renter and you want to buy a home, why would you buy it, right before the holiday season at a premium when we know that homes get discounted during the holidays because there's less buyers, right? So I'm going to go out there and say, hey, if you're in that situation, don't buy a home. Well, all these other realtors scrutinize me and beat me up over it. But it's my opinion. I believe it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't tell my mom to buy a home in the beginning of November. Why would I tell you, client, who I should be treating you like my mom? If I really care for you, right, treating you like family, right? So you may disagree with my opinion. You may not hire me as a realtor. Totally cool. But it's my opinion. And I'm going to stick by it because I did have the gut feeling, and I've watched and I've looked at the data, and I've looked at the days on market and the price drops and what's happened over the last 7 years locally in that market. And I have an opinion, and I'm going to share it. And you can hate it. I don't care because it's my opinion that I formulated based on some data. Yeah, there's opinion in it. I could be completely wrong. Data is real, but it's historical. It's yesterday's information, not today's. So,
well, there's trends. I've heard it called, the K waves. Things go up, things come down. I'm in the financial services space for 36 years. I've seen markets go up, markets go down, markets go up, markets go down. And the same with real estate. And now this 20-year window of very low interest rates, low inflation, and eventually you have to pay the piper. Everything reverts back to the mean and the norm and stabilizes. And so you can't have year after year of hyper growth without some point of getting kicked in the teeth. And so the way rates were going and coming out of COVID and the crazy demand in your market in Nashville and ours in South Florida, eventually you kind of say, and like you, I'm not disparaging anybody else in your space of real estate, but as an outsider, I'm like, this can't continue. I don't care what you think. I don't care how much Kool-Aid you drank. I know you're making a boatload of money. You're in the mortgage business, title company, realtors, whatever. Like, what's your plan B? Because something's going to hit the wall, and it's going to hit soon. And again, one of my many lines is, all things end badly, otherwise they wouldn't end. So nobody forecasts a stock market correction and says, we're going to schedule it on Tuesday, what's today, Wednesday? Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, we're going to crash the market. At least nobody you and I know. Maybe other people do, and that's why we get beat up. But nobody's going to predict and forecast or schedule a real estate crash. Now, we've had a tremendous boom. Prices down here are up 100% in certain pockets. 100% year over year, 2 years, whatever. Now, if your historical rate of return on any investment is 8 to 12%, and you got 100% in a year or two, it's got to come back to some level of normality. It's got to average out. So either it flatlines, it starts to decline, it's got to have years of stagnation, and eventually the average picks up. Now, you could say, well, we didn't have any movement from 2007 and 8's crash, and look where we are now, and take those, whatever it is, that's your data, right? That's your analytics. But, you and I are on plenty of calls where everybody's whining and complaining and business is down, and, what's your plan B? Like, what are you going to do to make extra income? Well, and this was a conversation we had with a client this morning, is you don't get money from the bank when you need it. You get money from the bank when you don't need it, because when you need it, they don't want to give it to you. And so you don't come up with passive income opportunities or a side hustle or any things when your main business is suffering. You do it when your main business is thriving. And that's all I kept saying to people the last 2 years as I'm building my insurance business, and I'm watching everybody make boatloads. People are like, oh, you should get into real estate. I'm like, that's not going to last. It's not recession proof. Insurance is recession proof. What happens when the cycle changes? What happens if? And I said, I don't know when it's going to happen, but it will at some point. And are you prepared? And so, the zigging when you're zagging, how are you seeing? Look, you're in the transaction model, as most people in sales are. And so either you get a customer that's an investor that wants multiple properties and keeps coming back to you, and then you got the average, family that's moving and upward mobility, and they need a bigger place from a townhouse to a single family to a, whatever, McMansions, and then those downsizing. So we all have that change of life perspective in here. But, how are you handling, besides telling people don't buy, because that doesn't pay your bills, right? So, what are you doing in that sense? Is it the speaking and your networking? Like, what are you doing in, what's your zig in this point of zagging right now? Like, what are you doing, or how would you say you're doing things differently than the herd right now?
Well, I think if you drill down to real estate, and kind of how I look at it is, every property you're going to buy, whether what your motivation is it's an investment, right? You're spending $300 to $3 million. It's an investment. It's a lot of money. Taking on the biggest loan and mortgage that you probably ever have, right? So I think most realtors and most people are going to sit down and have a meeting with you and ask, how many beds, what color cabinets, how big of a yard, do you need a fence, you got a dog, what about a garage, is that a must, right? And I do all those things, right? That's part of it. But I think where my unique ability comes in is to really understand who you are and have a deep connection with you. And that's kind of where I zag, because I have a conversation about what is your future plan, right? And things really shifted for me a couple of years ago, because I realized that I'm making an assumption on people that I may not know, right? When you first start in real estate, you sell to a lot of friends, family, things like that. You know them. You've engaged with them for years. So I don't want to assume things. I want to ask the right questions. And that's super important to me. And part of that is, what is your trajectory? What's your future plan? Your 1 year, your 3 year, your 5 year, your 10 year, right? Most realtors aren't going to ask that question, but it's extremely important, because if your goal is to come to Nashville and own a home for 2 years and use that money to get you to LA because you're a musician, and this is a stepping stone for you to follow your dreams, well, then why would we put you in a part of town or a pocket of a town that's not going to appreciate that fast in 2 years and obtain your goal to pull out that equity, sell, and then get to your purpose and your plan, right? So by asking those questions and understanding people's goals and plans, it allows me to actually zag in the real estate market and continue doing business, because of my unique ability to make a deep connection and help with people, what their goals and their plan is. It's not my plan, right? Okay. And I don't know your plan. So if I don't know you, I can't advise on you. And it's different for everybody, If someone I just need this asset to turn in 2 years and make me 75,000. Okay, well, we're going to go into a rough neighborhood that has a ton of appreciation, and let's have that conversation, right? And if you can deal with that and do that and live through some standards that may not be best for everybody else, you're going to make that 75K, and you're going to use this as a stepping stool to the progression that you're looking for, right? But if I never asked that question, I could put you in an amazing family-oriented neighborhood, that's going to appreciate at the lowest percentage across Metro Nashville and really ruin your future dreams because I didn't ask the right questions.
Right.
And that takes time, and some people don't like that. I lost clients. Jim, why are you asking me about my future, my finance? I don't know. Hey, we may not be a great fit, and that's okay too, right? But I think 99% of people are going to enjoy that, and I think that's where I zag specifically in real estate. Now, with real estate not performing at the highest levels over the last 2 years from a transaction and a commission standpoint for me, I'm not drastically down, but I also planned. I knew what was going on. I knew I wasn't going to make double this year. Now, I created stretch goals around that, of course. But I live in the moment of understanding that that may not be a reality. I'm not going to try for that. I'm not going to create smaller goals. I met with someone, a very successful realtor. They're like, oh, you're getting married this year. You're having a baby this year. Why don't you switch up your goals? And I'm like, well, why don't you switch up your goals? Well, why would I do that? Why the hell would I do that too? I may not hit them, but I'm not going to lower them. So I think for me in the real estate market is I zig because I ask very personal questions, almost probably questions you ask in finance.
Absolutely.
Questions you ask in insurance. Tough situations, tough questions. And it's not the norm for real estate agents to do that, right? But build that deep connection. That connection lasts a long time, especially after the transaction.
Well, we call it know your client, right? There was, in the securities industry, and you're making investment recommendations, time, risk tolerance, things of that nature, you're doing the same thing. You're putting money to work for somebody. If it's an investment property, it's different than a family home that they're going to sit and raise for the next 20 years and be in a community. So it has a different level of transaction on it. And, again, what we'll call in the wisdom of Stephen Covey is begin with the end in mind, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People begin with the end in mind. So what are you trying to accomplish? What are you going after? How do you and I assist those people in that journey? Again, I'm stealing Coach Burt stuff from A to B, right? How do you get them from A to B? And so as you just kind of laid out, if, you're looking for a quick turnover to make X, then you might want this part of town versus that part of town. If you're looking to be in the best school systems and you're not looking to flip your house, well, then, this area would be more pertinent to you. It's the same, with us here is the pockets of South Florida. The school systems are better in this town, and there's more retirees the next 2 towns over. Well, why? Because they need a lower cost of living. They don't need higher taxes. They don't need to pay for the school systems, so that you'll find more retirees over here, and the price points are 30 to 50% different from each other. So what can you afford and what do you need? Well, if I'm 60 coming down from New Jersey and looking to retire and bring my expenses down, I don't need to move to Boca and pay for the school systems and the higher tax base, right? And the higher priced homes. I can be over here in this town for a couple bucks less, right? So it's the same thing as what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you working with? There's a gazillion questions. So good for you as you're getting into that. And God, it's scary that your competition is not doing that. So we don't want to give away all the secrets to them. I don't have any realtors listen to the show, so we're okay.
Hey, I want people to do it.
Of course. No.
I want people to transact if it's not me and put people in a better light. And it's sad that a lot of people don't do that, but that they're just maybe not be privy to that. They may not be of importance,
Well, it lets people realize how good we are when they encounter people who aren't doing it. And so you may not win their business today, but you set the tone. I tell people, look, hear what I have to say and go interview anybody else you want to interview. because I know the majority of my competition's not going to be as well-versed, educated, provide the skill level needed to educate them, right? Deliver on that, and then make them feel I think the biggest problem in most financial transactions, whatever that might be, car shopping, home purchase, is people's lack of information. And, because I got a new tagline, they don't know what they don't know, which is why they need to keep listening to my show.
Let's go.
Right? Let's go. So, I think that's the biggest part is like, again, as we, said earlier, like, you don't just wake up with this stuff. You have to live it. You get your bumps and bruises along the way. Again, you and I come from very similar, humble backgrounds, shoveling snow and delivering newspapers at 10 and, hustling to make a living. Like, I had to go make, we didn't have, we grew up on that side of town that was, lower middle class and struggled. A single mother, if you, kind of watch my story of origin, raised by a single mother, and she died at a pretty young age. And like, dude, I just had to go out and hustle. Like, there was nobody handing me anything anywhere along the way. And so if you wanted it, I had to go get it. Yeah. And so you figure it out, and you'll trip and you'll fall, but you just keep going, like, until your last breath. Brad Lee talks about, for those who don't know Brad Lee, he has a couple of different businesses, and he speaks a lot in the same circuits. We met him through Coach Burt, and he says, I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you $10 million. Would you take it? You're like, well, wait a minute. What's the caveat? Well, the caveat is I'm going to give you $10 million, but today's your last day. You will not wake up tomorrow. Would you take that deal? Would you take $100 million? And nobody's going to say, yeah. So he basically flips it to then say, well, then tomorrow, waking up tomorrow is worth $1 million. It's worth $100 million. What are you doing with the day? What are you waking up with purpose? So I love that. I keep hearing people saying it over and over. And I'm like, that's Brad's quote. Like, they're stealing it. So now I'm borrowing it. I didn't steal it. I borrowed it. And so, do you wake up with purpose? Do you wake up to serve your fellow man? At the end of the day, when you draw your last breath, this was an exercise. I was younger than you when I went through this exercise at a, conference, a workshop, whatever it was. And it was basically write your own obituary. What do you want people to say about you? How do you want to be known? What did you do for your fellow man? And so when you do that exercise, and folks, if you haven't done that, stop the recording and go sit down and reflect and write your own obituary. And then when you think about that, in Jim's case, maybe that gave him some of his aha to change his directions, find some more clarity, some more purpose. It certainly helped me in a sense. But look, if nothing else, what you're hearing is, I'll be 60, he's 33, I got 27 years ahead of him. I'm still learning, progressing, and evolving. You never stop.
Never.
We met at Coach Burt's conferences, and we follow him in that path. I wish I knew him when I was your age, right? He didn't exist. I was in the Zig Ziglar camp and others. But, I had David Speck on. He's got the book Old Dog, New Tricks. I think David. He's in your area too. And, I'm an old dog. In the scheme of things, I'm an old dog. I'm not a kid anymore. I turned 60. So, but the point is, I'm always learning new tricks. I'm always trying to stay ahead on technology. And, just you owe it to yourself to continue to move forward and progress. Don't rot your brain, but what can you do to be better today? And so I wake up every day. I started the show. We don't monetize the show. We don't advertise. We're not pushing products or promoting anything in the sense it's just helping people, bringing information to them. And that's my give, and hopefully a legacy that I can leave behind, that this body of work someday will be, when your grandkids click on the show and watch Grandpa, they're like, well, look what they talk, he was zigging then,
Yeah.
and how did his hair grow back after all those years? I'm clinging to mine, I'm telling you. So, but you get the point. Is like, so again, to your credit, you're doing the things, you're again, like you said earlier, like now you know why we get along so well, is like we've got that commonality of our nature is to hold the door open for somebody coming out. You know, I always go and open my wife's car door. Like, you don't see that stuff anymore. Like, somebody slams the door on me when I'm walking out, I'm like, thank you. Like, really? You couldn't hold the door for me? Like, it just, my mother raised me the right way. I don't know. But this is treating your fellow person as you want to be treated. So I behave as I hope to get back. And there was something you said earlier, and it just popped in my head again, and I forgot it already. My senior moments. It was something to do with like treat people the way you want to be treated. It'll come back to me, but now it's stuck in my head. I can't remember what it was. Go ahead, you say something. It'll come back.
Well, no, I was just saying, I think, you know, to your point, and I think to kind of bring it all together of what the first question was of the hustle and the BMW and your story and what you're just saying about treating people right is, sometimes we just move so fast and we just continuously want the next thing, and we don't actually reflect. We don't actually think about, wow, was I the best yesterday? Or you know, I could have treated that person different. And I think once you make those reflections and carve out the time to do those things, your life is going to change. And for me, time is extremely important. And I would always give time to things that weren't in those categories of self-reflection and how can I be better and analyzing. And I think to your point with the obituary and the exercise, I mean, that's exactly it. You're reflecting on who you think you want to be and then analyzing it to where who you think you are today, and then going to create goals or drastic changes and measures to move forward. You know, for me specifically, you know, I knew that alcohol was prohibiting me to put out the maximum outcome in which I could do at the highest capacity for Jim Morris, right? Nothing didn't happen. My wife didn't say you drink too much. I didn't crash a car, get a DUI, but I had to make that change. And and the only way I knew that that was the right thing to do to have maximum output was because I didn't want to look back when I'm 150 years old, because I'm going to live to 150 still without hair. But I didn't want to look back and be like, man, I spent a lot of time, or I lost a lot of time because I was drinking and woke up late the next day, or didn't go to the gym, or, you know, didn't work as hard because I was fatigued from drinking the night before, things like that, right? So
it's a maturation process.
It is.
You know, youth is waste on the young. You know, you have to earn your stripes. You have to pay the piper sometimes and learn from those lessons. And some people learn harder than others, right? Totally. So again, you've progressed in that capacity. How old is your child? Tell us. You in your bio says a newer father. So how old? You have one child at the moment?
Yep, one child only. Girl.
It's a girl. Okay. So would you pinpoint that moment, either finding out about the pregnancy or when the baby finally came along? Like, do you see that as part of the epiphany process for you as well? It did for me.
100%. And I'll tell you, and I'll kind of dive into why I'm throwing this conference at the end of the year for my event business. So I went to a conference right before the baby was about to be born, maybe a couple months before. And I just had this epiphany of like, okay, I really need to figure out who I want my child to be, what's important, what characteristics, what core values. And it caused me to have self-reflection at a very, very deep, honest, extremely high level, right? I was in LA at a conference by myself. I'm walking down the street and I'm like, all right, I got to put this thing together. I got to figure out what the most important traits are, what we're going to continuously remind her as she progresses. I believe the first 7 years are extremely important in development of a child. Right. So I'm like, shit, I got like a couple months before I really need to nail this thing down and crush. Right. Like
you need a new black book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I created this thing. So I'm walking down the street and my daughter's name is Ellie. The only name that came to me in my wife's mind that we agreed upon, right? And I'm walking down the street and I look over and there's an Italian restaurant called Ellie's. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm hungry. I love Italian food. Nashville Italian food's awful. I'm a Bostonian guy, North End. I haven't had it in 8 months. I'm like, let me try this. This is awesome. I'm fired up, right? Like, they make their own pasta, little small place. I'm like, this is awesome. So I sit down and I create this on my notes in my phone, this document called Ellie will be like ... And man, I'm like tearing up, holding back tears, eating Italian food by myself, looking at this sign that says Ellie, and I'm just going through this thing. And I make this document, and it's like 50, 60, Ellie will be like, right? Ellie will be in good health. Ellie will help the person on the side of the street with a flat. Like, I'm going into his concepts, I'm going into core values, I'm going into situational things, right? And I just built this. And what I realized was, holy shit, there's about 20 things on here that I'm not. How am I ever going to tell my daughter to be this way when I'm not this way? And it really was just a self-reflection. It was the best reflection I've ever had in my entire life. I used to smoke nicotine vape for 9 months, quit it the next day, cold turkey. Like, it was the one thing I needed something.
Well, you realized you weren't aligned to what you thought you were.
Exactly. So for me, Ellie will be like, note that pad on my phone. I come back, me and my wife start adding to it. We create an accountability meeting every week. Part of that meeting is we have to read this to ourselves every week, because the only way we're going to hold ourselves to these standards is if it's constantly in front of our face, and if we're checking ourselves and reflecting that week if we did those things. So to your point, sorry I went on for a little.
No, it's good. I assume you have parents?
Yes, one parent left. She's actually in town right now. So,
I look forward to meeting her someday.
Yes.
So she did a good job. My mom's gone a long time, so good for you. She did a good job. So I would say, if you don't have any parents, I'm ready to adopt you. I think you're very impressive.
Appreciate
it. From the moment we left. So I'm getting teary eyed. So you're a good egg. Real quick, you mentioned your event. Let's get some plugs in on there. So, it's interesting. I've been doing my own networking group since the early 2000s. I got turned on to like that Latip, BNI mold, but I kind of made my own group, and then I moved to Florida, and now we have our more of a it's with Zoom. We've got a sizable group. It's kind of mastermindy with board of directors, Vistage. It's just kind of this combination. But as you said earlier, the community works together. We're better as a group than as one, and we raise each other up. So you kind of found that same path, again, seeing the parallels in a lot of what you and I do. So you've done some networking groups. You're putting an event together in October up in Nashville, I believe. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about that? We're recording in May. The show will probably come out in June to early July. So certainly plenty of time to come to the late October event. It's October 27th. Yes. Yeah. And it's going to be, I'm still not quite sure whether it's at a saloon after what you just said about not drinking, but okay, I guess it has room for everybody. So, but go ahead, tell us more about the event, how people can get tickets to it and attend, and what's behind it, and all of that.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm throwing a conference is because that conference pushed me to change my life through what I just mentioned to you, right? I just needed one different perspective, and it changed my life. I mean, the clarity I have after that moment, it has allowed me to prosper in multiple ways, not financially only, from deeper relationships and connections and things of that nature. So the reason why I'm putting on a conference is because I think it will change lives. And as I speak at different events and I throw my own events and get those messages across to certain people, it does change lives. People have come up to me crying, grown women, grown men, sharing their story, texting me after, reaching out, saying thank you, DMing me online, right? So I'm like, man, I've got to get what I have to say out there but there's also a network of people that I'm now connected with that have a message that helped me. So I'm like, how can I give that message back? And as an entrepreneur going through COVID and, having a vision of me on the Forbes magazine for the company I was building, and that taste of success, and that first year we almost hit $1 million, and all that stuff being taken away, I almost wanted to quit entrepreneurship. And I almost want to quit all the time, man. Like, stuff never goes right, So I want to put this conference on to help entrepreneurs not quit, who are stuck, who maybe are looking for that next thing that they've had great success in what they do or what they've done, but it's just not their passion. And I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs, whether they're solopreneurs or medium-sized business and business owners, we always need cutting-edge information. We always need different perspective. And those entrepreneurs sometimes can't afford that, right? A Coach Burt boot camp could be $5,000 for a day, $15,000 for 2 days, and most people can't afford that. So how do we put something in place that will help them through sales and marketing to grow and build their business, get them to the next level, be able to afford professional development in the future, and continue to grow and figure out and find their purpose and help them? So for me, a lot of people throw conferences to make money. A lot of people throw conferences to make an offer on the back end, whether they're a coach or whether they've got a book coming out. Dude, I don't got any of that. I got none of that. I don't coach people. I throw my own events. So I'm not doing this because I need anything. I'm truly doing this because the community needs this. And there's people out there that have gone through what I've gone through. There's people out there that they've gone to a conference and they've gotten that new perspective. Their life is completely changed, right? So hopefully I can do that for one person. And for me, I want to be unique, and I do zag when everybody zigs and all that. So, you pay all this money for a 1-day conference, 2-day conference, and the reality of this is your life's not going to change in a day or two.
No,
so
it's here.
We're going to have a 1-day conference. We're going to allow you to go implement what you've learned in your business for 2 months, and then we bring you back and throw another workshop, an event once a month for 4 months. And we bring back the speakers so you can go take what you've learned, that knowledge, and go apply it. And when you apply knowledge and things are new, you come to roadblocks, right? And for me, we talked about Brad Lee. Brad Lee was like, go do this, go do that. And then I hit a roadblock, and I call him and he doesn't answer, right? And it's no pun against him specifically, but the setup isn't there to get me across the roadblock and apply the knowledge to have the gains that I thought I'd have. So I want to give people the opportunity to learn, acquire knowledge, go out for 2 months, apply it to their business, get frustrated, hit roadblocks, come back for 4 more events that you're going to have an opportunity for Q&A to ask the speaker how to help and get over this roadblock to apply this knowledge, and then have a mini refresher on what they spoke about at the event, because we may need to hear things more than one time for it.
Oh, 100%.
So that's where I'm taking this. That's why I'm doing it. I was the entrepreneur that always wanted to quit. I often still run into struggles where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? Right? And the only way to get to the other side is through. And if I can help someone through, then that's my gift, man. That's all I want to do. And, I think because my perspective is community-based and helping people and entrepreneurs from every level and doing what costs me more money, man. To throw a conference costs $280,000. To throw another 4 events costs $54,000, right? Like, there's reasons why people don't throw and give you all this value, because it costs a lot of money and there's so much risk. I'm willing to take that risk, and I'm willing to do that because I want to help people. I want to help entrepreneurs, and I want to help my community.
So how can we get tickets?
ImpactSocialEvents.com. We've got different tiers, different packages. We're doing some really cool stuff. Like, we're going to shoot podcasts, 7-minute podcasts during the event. We've got the building next to it. We're doing a VIP breakfast.
So say it again. I want to put it in the show notes.
ImpactSocialEvents.com, which is my business I started during COVID, throwing events. And this is the end all be all, man. Like, I plan on doing this conference every year until I die.
Awesome. What's the entry level price and where does it go? Like how low can somebody get in for?
$500. Yep. Entry level, you'll still get a ton of value.
And is that going to include the follow-up dates or are there additional follow-up dates?
Everything's included.
So you're going to get 5 sessions,
a full day conference, and then 4 more events. Yep.
Excellent.
And for me, man, it's funny because I took a lot of advice and I took a lot of, consulting on this, and everybody's told me I'm crazy. Everybody told me I'm an idiot because we're going to lose money on every $500.
Yeah, but you're the zigger. You're not the zagger.
We're going to lose money on every $500 ticket sold, and it's the happiest I've ever been hearing that noise because I don't care because we're going to make
Follow Jim for more investment advice. How to lose money on every sale with Jim Morris. I want to hit a couple summary points, start to bring us to a close here. So I think some of the pieces you talk about, first and foremost, is karma. It's paying it forward. The great Zig Ziglar said, you'll have everything you want in life as long as you help other people get what they want in life. And I think you follow that path. What I find that resonates a lot is, and I want the audience, I always have the so what's is, look, it's one step at a time. It's literally one day at a time. The point of your conference you just hit on is we're not fixing all your problems in one day. A business coach isn't fixing you in one day. It's a process. I've been in the space 36 years. I still evolve. You will never stop evolving, folks. You evolve or die. It's pretty much that, you'll sleep when you're dead. So keep at it. Keep working at it. If you're visually seeing the show on YouTube, the sign behind him says, get shit done. Okay. Keep moving forward, keep plugging away. And so again, here's a young man that has had success at an early age. And oh, by the way, had failure at an early age and it didn't get the best of him. So come check him out at his event. It's impactsocialevents.com. My guest has been Jim Morris. His event's October 27th in Nashville. What's the name of the locations? What was the saloon?
Wild Horse Saloon.
Wild Horse Saloon. BYOB, I think. I'm not sure, but don't hold me to that. It's at a saloon. Anyway, we've got Jim's phone number in the show notes, 615-753-1440. You could reach him at jimmorrisrealestate.com, and his website is jimmorrisrealestate.com. Right? I have all that right?
TheRealJimMorris.com.
Wait a minute. I don't have the real Jim.
I don't need that up.
I don't have that. Oh, there's one. No, that's I have the Real Jim Morris Show. That's YouTube. I don't know. It'll be in the show notes, everybody. Jim, thank you so much for being here. Let me bring the show to a close. Folks, this has been another episode of Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. I hope that Jim and I have given you some direction why you want to plan for your future, but still live for today. It's all about proactivity, all about planning. Here's a 33-year-old man who has figured things out, moving in a positive direction, not letting life beat him down. Maybe this is a little bit different of a message that we've been delivering to you, so I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe. Go hit up Jim Morris at his social media sites. Follow The Plan Man. Share this with your friends. If we could be of any help to you in any other areas of finance, insurance, or more, hit us up at asktheplanman.com. Bruce at asktheplanman.com is my email. And as I always say, I'll pay for the phone call. Give me a call at 844-PLAN-MAN. If you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask the Plan Man. Jim, you don't know what you don't know, so what should they do?
Watch the show.
Keep watching the show. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I look forward to seeing you in October, and if not sooner. Folks, again, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Plan Man. Finance, insurance, and more.